Y'all had a good week. Mine was okay considering we're still early in the high season. Uh, I hope this isn't seeming tedious to you. I'm risking it because I want to establish sort of a common vocabulary so you understand maybe the origins of my thinking and so I can say things in sort of shorthand later and it's or if I reference Clausewitz or Sun Tzu or whoever, you understand why I am. Uh, so next week I'm going to be, I think, concerning a very common pitfall that I've seen among many performers starting out and young in a sense that they've not spent a lot of time out in the street. And once they start to be able to build crowds, it's a pitfall that if it gets a hold of you, it will totally change the vibe of a show and change it warps our perception of things. And so I'll cover that next week. It's a really important one. I mean, if you're out there working in the street and you want to learn, being aware of this is uh, really important. So that is next week, I think. Until then, on with this episode, and I'll see y'all on the other side. The first part of this, the source, seemed to have stirred up some feelings in some people. That's how I feel. Well, it's my opinion. Uh, if you don't agree with it, that's okay. That's who you are. That's how you feel. I'm different, and you're not going to convince me that I'm wrong. You're not going to convince me that somehow my view is flawed. It's taken me many years to understand, intellectualize something that I very viscerally, instinctually felt since I was born. So if, whatever, difference of opinion. And I'm going to double down here. So if you don't want any more provocation, you don't have to watch. Stay tuned any longer. I hereby release you to the world. um, so, I mean, we're left with what constitutes a great artist? What constitutes great art? And that's something that I went into a little bit in the intermission in these two parts. That great art evokes something um, uh, not primal, but something bigger than the self, something eternal, something beautiful, something. And the person feels that by looking at it. It's hard to see a white canvas with black lines going horizontally and vertically, and a couple of those form rectangles or squares, and one of them's yellow and one of them's red, and another one's blue. That doesn't evoke anything in me. It would be better off, I think, as wallpaper. The same thing with Jackson Pollock's drippings. I see nothing rewarding about them, again, because it doesn't evoke emotion. Now, I assume if you stared at it long enough that you might pick up on some vibes concerning the color and the swirls, and that's okay. You know, if that's what you think art is, great art is, then more power to you. I disagree with it. I think that things we recognize, things beauty is something timeless. So, in that, I think that magic is the purest form of evoking that feeling, purest form of art, to actually be capable of evoking something in us that is a wondrous enchantment. It's enchanting. It's hard to explain, but no other form of art can evoke that feeling as efficiently. One of the reasons why I think Cellini was so great was because he was the first magician that I ever saw that made me feel like a kid. I was held spellbound by his work, and it made my heart dance with joy. And it's not just unique to me, too. It's Jerry Sadowitz said the same exact thing. Frank Garcia said this is the same thing, exactly, word for word. I think Frank Garcia said Cellini's greatest trick is making his audiences feel like kids, children. Um, and I read that after I had already experienced his show. So it wasn't like I was stealing Frank's thoughts. Same thing with Jerry Sadowitz's view. What is that? It's I think Paul Harris calls it the art of astonishment. There you have my definition, not only of what I think a great artist is, but also what makes a great show. It touches upon something that is greater than the magician. It touches upon something that's greater than any of the individuals that stand there, and they all feel a part of something special, a part of something almost eternal. Without our audience, we have nothing. There is no magic. They're like the troops that we can march out onto the battlefield. Some of them might be spies in the form of hecklers or something of that nature, but the only people that become our enemy are those people that are trying to stop us from performing our show. That's where conflict begins, and I use the strategies outlined in the second part of my book to try and stop those problems from arising by behaving in a certain way. A word that I've been struggling to think of is transcendent. And transcendent of our individual attributes. And the only way we can achieve that is it's how I opened the first part of this. Why mine is a mine. It's not some egotistical, I think I'm the source of everything. It is inside ourselves we find that spark, that the beauty of existence, the poetry of life, that spark of life that is in all of us, and that's what the wand represents. The individual and our power of creation. And if we can, in particular ways, express that through our personage in performance, then we transcend individuality. Everybody can see a part of themselves in our performance, and we touch upon universal truths. Now, if you want to call them that, attributes, whatever. Just as there is no magic without an audience, there is no art without some feeling that engenders within one of an appreciation for life, an appreciation for the aspect, the beauty of living. And you can, I mean, sometimes there's tragedy, sometimes there's pathos, but if there's no emotion, it becomes just a cheap trick. Something that would maybe be better as wallpaper, drippings. You have to put your life into it. You have to put their lives into it. They have to feel. That's what I saw in Cellini. I think that constitutes art. And of course, we all can't be a Cellini, but we can strive to improve what we do. And I use the war paradigm in order to do just that, to try and give us a theoretical underpinning that hasn't existed. As I said, there is a huge difference between war and magic in that we get to execute the same maneuver over and over again. If you each battle, each war that takes place in the real world, it's a one-time off. You know, you're facing totally unique circumstances every time you have a conflict. In Magic, that's not so. In Magic, we can plan everything. We can tweak everything. We can rearrange things, insert things. So trial and error is our friend. And we learn most when we fail. Our greatest defeats have the greatest lessons to offer us. Okay, I'm going to try one more time to communicate this. Boy, it's a tough one. Because it's a paradox. Only by recognizing, I don't believe in the character, forming a character and acting out a character. That's not something that comes natural to me, and I don't recommend it to anybody. Only because by forcing ourselves to adopt a character of whatever, I think it's insincere. I, on the other hand, find characteristics in myself, certain affinities I have, and exaggerate them. I think that comes off as more natural. I am naturally kind of a grumpy guy. I've grown old and settled in my ways, and I exaggerate that for the purpose of the show, and do so in a humorous way where everybody can kind of identify with, you know, when I call a little kid a jerk or I tell a kid to shut up or whatever, people laugh because they acknowledge that they have those tendencies themselves inside. So by showing an individual characteristic, which I have, it transcends the individuality and everybody recognizes the universality of it. So only by being truly my individual self, or an exaggerated version of it, it transcends the individual. Okay, I hope that makes sense, because it was really difficult to get it together in my brain and say. Next week I'm doing, the episode is concerning, as I said, a pitfall that I think is very common among neophyte, intermediate performers. So I think it will benefit you to digest that one as well as this one, so we can have a conversation from here on out and be somewhat more understanding of one another. All right, I guess that's it for this week. I hope this has been informative. I hope thought-provoking. If you have any questions or comments, please put them below the video here in the comments section. I really appreciate you guys, and I have a way of becoming distracted as I'm talking and perhaps not finishing certain points that I would like. So if you see any of that, please let me know. Okay, until next week, I hope your week is a very productive one. I hope mine is as well. I'll see you next time. Ciao, ciao.